Hello, friends. My name is Edmund Jansen. I would like to share some background information about myself, as well as some introductory information about this course that focuses on the Sermon on the Mount. First, something about myself. I was born and grew up in Canada, near Niagara Falls. I'm the product of an immigrant family that settled on a fruit ranch in the Niagara region. Our family was a Christian Mennonite family. I was the youngest of 6 boys and 2 girls. After high school, I attended and graduated from McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, with a BA in English and History. It had the academic reputation of being a kind of Canadian Berkeley. That was followed by a 2-year program in theology at a Bible college in Winnipeg, Canada. My wife Mary and I sensed a call to pastoral ministry, and so we moved to North Dakota to serve a small rural congregation as their pastor for almost 5 years. I must say, I learned a great deal from those good farming folk. That was followed by our relocation to Fresno, California, to attend the Biblical Seminary that is located here, in order to complete a divinity degree. And from there, our little family of 2 boys and a girl moved to the San Francisco Bay Area so that I could pursue a doctoral program at Golden Gate Baptist Theological Seminary. I completed a Master's of Theology degree in 1968, the last century. And then I was invited to teach at Pacific College here in Fresno in Biblical and Religious Studies. So now I am retired, having served for 35 years as a professor of biblical studies, as well as 10 years as a former president of Fresno Pacific. I developed this course, Studies in the Sermon on the Mount, about 20 years ago, feeling that a Christian college like ours should have a Christological-centered course that would invite students to explore and take seriously the core teachings of Jesus. I have taught it annually ever since, including a few shorter versions that I adapted for several local churches. I must say it has been a real joy to teach this particular course. And so now that leads me to reflect on the nature and purpose of this course. As already noted, the Sermon on the Mount represents the core teachings of Jesus, recorded in his own words. And in this teaching, Jesus spells out in some detail what it means to be his disciples. Nowadays, we use words like followers, both in terms of character and conduct, our being and our doing. In other words, did Jesus merely expect his followers to admire him? Or did he really expect that those who called him Lord would actually do the things that he said and did? This sermon, given almost 2,000 years ago, amazed the original audience. It continues to amaze and to challenge readers and listeners today. What possibly could such a rather dated sermon have to say to us today, since we live in a very different time and place and we come from so many different backgrounds and cultures? As already mentioned, there are those who read the Sermon on the Mount as a statement of unreachable ideals, believing that Jesus never really expected that we should try to attain to his standard. It's kind of like watching an Olympic high jumper clear the bar at about 7 feet 8 inches, and then hearing him say, "Okay, now the rest of you do it too." Impossible, we would say. But I want to remind us there are others who are willing to take Jesus' teaching quite seriously, opting not only for idealism, but for realism, and accepting what he says as normative to be applied to everyday living. I consider it a real privilege to guide us through this study because the Sermon on the Mount is so rich in practical teaching on a whole range of real-life ethical issues, such as how Jesus' followers are to deal with anger, with lust, adultery, divorce, violence, the treatment of enemies, judging others, personal anxiety, and even how they are to pray, to express genuine devotion to God, and to do so without hypocrisy. As in any Bible study series, this course will raise a host of questions, some of which are really quite difficult to answer. It is possible to get bogged down in the minutiae of technical details, such as, is this really one long sermon, or is it a compilation of several sermons? Where, when was it given, and to whom? Why, if it is so important, do not Mark and John record it as well? And why in Luke's version is it considerably shorter, and in fact it is known there as the Sermon on the Plain, not on the Mount? Why doesn't the Luke version record Christ's model prayer, which we call the Lord's Prayer? And why does Luke only provide 4 Beatitudes and not 8, like Matthew does? You see, there are lots of questions that could easily sidetrack us from digging into the content of the text. Finally, maybe more importantly, waiting for us at the end of this short course will be the issues of application to our own life. One of the challenges that I have frequently issued to my classes has been the challenge of actually committing Matthew 5 and 6 and 7 to memory. In our sophisticated computerized age with iPads and iPods and iPhones in abundance, memorization appears to be an anachronism of the past and a very lost art. After all, we can access God's Word anywhere and at any time with a simple push of the finger. However, hiding God's Word in one's heart and mind makes that Word come alive and instantly retrievable, especially when we need it most in times of extremity and stress. Well, that's always an opportunity, never a requirement in this course. But I must say that many who have accepted this challenge report the very personal, positive advantages and blessings of doing so. So, my friends, welcome aboard. I'm honored to be your tour guide through the Sermon on the Mount. Sit back and enjoy the journey. Thank you.